And an idea developed as part of Islamic theology that any opposition to Islam and anything that would discourage a Muslim from being confident about being a Muslim was fitna, which means persecution or seduction. Now, this fitna worldview, that it's a matter of justice to prevent people from criticising Islam, is being demanded by Muslim authorities as something that the West should adopt. Muslims have been seeking legal redress for insults upon their faith, their God or their prophet. And we're seeing this international process underway, limiting freedom of speech, particularly around criticism of Islam. Let me describe how this played out in the case of the Islamic Council of Victoria versus Catch the Fire in the aftermath of 9/11. This was a Christian revivalist group, Catch the Fire, and its leader, Daniel Nalia, invited Daniel Scott, a Pakistani Christian pastor, to run a seminar on jihad in Melbourne. One of the interesting ironies is that Scott had himself escaped from a blasphemy charge in Pakistan and escaped with his life in order to come to Australia, but he found himself charged with blasphemy against Islam in Melbourne in the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Well, the Islamic Council of Victoria, hearing that this jihad seminar was being held, sent 3 converts to Islam to it, and they took notes, and a complaint was lodged on their behalf. Already before the case went to the tribunal, important lines were being drawn in the sand. The Christians asserted that they were criticising Islam and not attacking Muslims, and they insisted on their right to make that distinction between beliefs and persons. The Muslims, on the other hand, insisted that it was impossible to make that distinction and that criticising Islam was an attack on Muslims personally. As the lawyer for them said, if one vilifies Islam, one is by necessary consequence vilifying people who hold that religious belief. As it happened, many of the points of complaint involved issues that had some kind of factual basis. For example, it was complained that Daniel Scott had said that Allah teaches that taking part in jihad in the heat of the desert is preferable to the heat of hell. And actually that's literally what the Quran says in chapter 9, verse 81. But this factual report was taken to be an incitement of hatred against Muslims. The barristers for the Islamic Council insisted that, Bryn Wanarski said, the mere fact that a statement may be true or an objectively justifiable expression of opinion does not prevent that statement from being seen as inciting hatred, contempt, ridicule or revulsion. The other QC for the Islamic Council, Debbie Mortimer, said, truth is not a defence, it is irrelevant to contravention of the act. In the end, the judge upheld the complaint. He found the 2 pastors had incited hatred, contempt and ridicule for Muslims. They were ordered to take out prominent advertisements in Melbourne's daily newspapers, reporting the findings against them at an estimated cost of around $50,000. They appealed and eventually won their appeal in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court judges were very critical of Judge Higgins in his findings. He made many errors of fact, but they particularly criticised him that he didn't adequately distinguish between rejection of ideas and rejection of the people that hold those ideas, and the possibility of inciting people against one without inciting them against the other. In a sense, the Supreme Court vindicated a key contention of the Christians that you can make a distinction between Islam and Muslims. It was a very long and demanding process that took about 4.5 years and was watched very closely by legislatures around Australia. Salman Rushdie had thought a lot about these matters, and he wrote about the values he'd learned as an undergraduate in England. If an individual in a free society no longer has the right to say openly that he prefers one book to another, then that society no longer has the right to call itself free. Citizens have the right to complain about discrimination against themselves, but not about dissent from their thoughts. There cannot be fences erected around ideas, philosophies, attitudes, or beliefs. Whether the West adheres to its historic convictions will determine its future. Far from sleepwalking into Sharia, I hope and labour for the cause that we will continue to claim the right to call ourselves free.